Welcome to This Week in the Division 2, your only source for all the news, posts, build guides and more. Let's be honest with each other. There are a shit ton of Division 2 YouTube videos released every week, far too many to keep up with them all. So don't, because I'm going to do it for you. In this video I'm going to run through every Division 2 video released this week. In the description below I will leave a link to every video I watch so that it's easy for you to go straight to the ones that interest you. And to make this video as easy as possible to use, here are the timestamps for each section. You can also use the chapters below to jump straight to them. Now, I didn't watch every live stream or Let's Play video, but technically, there are too fucking many of them. But look out for the names of them all at the end of the video. As I reported last week, the Division 2 player counts have been showing signs of a resurgence in the run-up to the Battle for Brooklyn DLC launch. The game has also got on the radar for more mainstream creators like Gaming Bolt and Moxie. To supercharge the momentum of the launch, the base game has been added to Xbox Game Pass, and there was a free weekend for all players to try the game. So did the DLC result in the new player growth that Massive was hoping for? We only have player counts available for Steam, which is only a small portion of the player base, and likely to be an even smaller base now the game is on Game Pass. But directionally, it was a fucking good weekend for the game, with player counts on Steam nearly reaching the peak it achieved back when it was first launched on that platform in 2022. Right now, as I'm recording this video, there are nearly 12,000 active players in the game, 4 times as many as there were this time last year. And on Twitch, where typically the Division 2 is pulling in less than 1,000 viewers, it made the front page with 7,000 viewers spread over a ton of live streams. It's like we are playing a real game. Move over the day before. The big question I have though is what will Massive do to retain these players, or even build on them? We don't have a Year 7 roadmap yet. Rogue Gold and DJ Tickle interviewed Yannick as part of their trip to Malmo, and even when given the opportunity, Yannick wasn't able to reveal anything other than some vague assurances the Year 7 is going to be an exciting year. He did indicate though that more content like the Battle for Brooklyn would be dependent on players' reaction to the DLC, and he didn't completely rule out the Chinese dinosaur suit. The reaction to the DLC from creators outside the community has been generally good. Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear recommended that new and returning players should get it, which Xbox Era echoed with a strong 8.5 out of 10. GameBolt gave it a solid 7 out of 10, describing it as safe and more Division 2, which is actually a pretty fair review. But not everyone was as positive. Sky Captain 5 found the experience underwhelming, while Born to Game was, well, born to game. He did raise some fair criticisms about some bugs in the game, repetitive objectives, and the length of the DLC being relatively short if you ignore the hunters, exploration and secrets. But he also raised some issues that anyone playing the game would know are not real issues. That does raise some questions about how accessible the game is to returning players who think they know how to play the game but have missed some important things in the time they've been away. It is clear from the player counts, the generally solid to good reviews, and the live stream numbers, including streams from more non-Division streamers, that the reception to the DLC has been good. But we all know how quickly players get bored of a game and leave. I think that Massive have a short window to hook these new and returning players. They need to get players excited for what is to come in Year 7, and they need to do it now. Speaking of Year 7, there was another developer diary just before the launch which was mainly focused on Season 1. There were 3 things that jumped out from this. Weekly scouts are being changed. In previous seasons we had to play all of them to unlock the climax mission. Going forward we can play them all, but there are just 2 that have to be done, high value targets. And we can play the scouts in any order, making this all more accessible. The seasonal journey has also been changed to make it less of a grind, with it being possible to work on multiple steps at the same time. And on top of that, journey objectives can now be completed in group play, and they do count for your own progress. All of which is good for casual players with little time to play, particularly given it is a great source for Seasons Pass XP. But it is not so good for more dedicated players. I have already finished the first 6 journey steps and have 5 out of the 8 objectives completed on the last, and to be honest, other than finishing the DLC, I've not played that much this week. Massive are between a rock and a hard place with this. Before the seasonal journey was just too grindy. Now it isn't grindy enough. I hope the Massive get the balance right at some point, or seasons are going to be very long with not that much to do. Of course, a new season means new seasonal modifiers, and several content creators ran through them in depth. I have created a few combinations that are very strong already, which I will be covering in videos hopefully this week. All I'm going to say though is that the big choice with the modifiers is whether you use the active modifier or not. One of the things that we've been looking forward to with the DLC are the Hunter puzzles, which took all of 2 days to be fully completed. Hats off to the community on this. If you want to find out the solutions to these puzzles, then there are videos on each mask, which are all pretty much the same as each other. Several creators have put out compendiums with all of the mask puzzle solutions in one video if you want everything in one place. Completing all of the Hunter puzzles will reward you with the keys needed to get the new Huntsman FAMAS, which comes with what had been an LMG only talent, Perfect Frenzy. Now I have a build with this weapon and I have to say, it's a good talent on an AR, but it's not great. When it procs it's a lot of fun, but having to fire an entire clip before it activates is actually more of a drag than you might think. And in my build, I have a better option. The other type of mask that came with the DLC was the exotic mask Catalyst. As several creators reported, this mask drops on the Marauder Copter at the end of the Army Terminal mission. It is a random drop and it took me a handful of runs to get it on heroic difficulty. Currently the mask is bugged and it doesn't look like the weapon damage buff it provides is working properly, so bear this in mind when you see any builds using it. I do hope that creators consider whether it is actually better than the alternatives. Sadly, I don't expect many to do this, as quite often creators just throw out builds with the new meta mask for views. We also got our hands on the Caretaker Assault Rifle this week by completing the Game Pass project. This project was all about helping out new players with the Shepherd experience, so it was a shame that calls for backup were bugged for the first few days of the Shepherd's Triple event. Lots of convoluted workarounds were devised by creators to get around this. The Caretaker comes with the Perfect Killer talent, making it a great alternative if you don't have the Lexington. A quick roundup of the best of the rest. A different bug saw the community collectively shit their pants, as their stash looked like it had been wiped on logging into the game. Thankfully, the classic IT support desk response of turn it off and then on again seemed to fix this one. The DLC did bring new achievements and commendations, some of which you might need help with if this is your thing. With a number of new ARs with new talents entering the game, Patrick Wolf had a look at which ARs are now the best, while IKEA came up with the most contradictory video of all time with a 42-minute look into the streamlined talent and whether it was any good or not. His verdict? It depends. But seriously, if you are looking to min-max in the game, IKEA is one of the best sources of information, and as usual this was a very thorough look at the talent. Finally, Virtual ZZ showcased the awesome looking Chinese legendary weapons, which may be just a little overpowered. Before we get into all the videos, a quick aside. YouTube's algorithm is fucking weird. Run the same search twice and you'll get different answers, and I found some videos just didn't appear. The same goes with this video. If you don't subscribe, you might never see any episode of it ever again. More build guides are published than any other video type, but which build is good and which is not? This is the 11th week that I've been creating this week in the Division 2. Pretty much every build guide that I've seen is just a variation on something that has been done before, or in some cases, something that has actually been done before and often by the same content creator. So rather than run through each build as I have been doing, I'm going to focus on any changes to existing builds that you should know about, new gear that is appearing, and any builds that I think are unique enough you should have a look at them. I will still leave links to every build guide in the description. The Turmoil knee pads have been fixed, or maybe nerfed is the better description, as the double dipping that was letting them buff damage has now been removed. The devs clearly didn't intend for the talent to do what it was doing, but this does mean that builds using it have just got a lot weaker. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use it, but the poor single target damage coupled with no buff is a bit of a killer for me. The streamlined talent is starting to appear in some builds. The thing to be aware of with these builds is that the talent only works if you are not using any skills. So if you like to use skills, it is not a talent you want to use in a build. And that includes shields, which is a big one for many players. The nimble holster is an interesting one as it has the potential to make you unkillable as long as you are constantly running from cover to cover. The problem I have with it is that you can't shoot when you're doing this, so I don't think it's as useful as some builds will make out. For solo players, Memento is probably still going to be your go-to. The smart cover skill does look very strong, with the precision's version's damage to targets out of cover being a huge damage buff. Definitely more useful in harder content where you are using cover. For easier content, you aren't going to be stationary enough to really get full use out of it, I would have thought. I mentioned before that the Catalyst exotic mask is currently bugged. Massive are looking into this, and so we should hopefully get a solution soon. I will also reiterate that for pure damage output, it isn't always the best option. If you are using anything other than an SMG, Crossroads mask will outperform it. So the question will be whether the bonus armor, reload speed and ability to ADS when on fire are enough to make it worthwhile. One build that I did find quite interesting was Identity's Measured Assembly PvP build. This gear set has been largely written off in the PTS due to the cooldown on its talent being too long, but Identity seems to come up with an interesting build with it that counters some of the more annoying things in PvP. A good one to troll the trolls. See you the same time next week.